Salt and light. Of course, we would have heard that before from speaker number one. And why is it important? Well, let me ask this question. Is it important? Is it an important discussion? Is it something that we really should be considering at all? Well, I want to posit to you this afternoon that it is. Why? Simply because Jesus called us salt and light. So if Jesus referred to us as salt and light, I'm thinking it's important for us to at least figure out why he referred to us as salt and light. I think that's important. Because if he referred to us as salt and light, then there is an expectation. There is an expectation from God. There's an expectation from Jesus. And what is this expectation that he has of us, having referred to us as salt and light? Well, I could go through this pretty quickly now, this part, because we would have gotten that lesson. Salt, of course, in ancient days had high value, but its properties gives us, as we found out, some incredible value. Not just incredible value, but it flavors like Maggie. Well, better than Maggie. And it flavors, but it also preserves. And in that flavoring and in that preservation, what we get is transformation. So where salt is, it doesn't remain the same. Because preservation does not necessarily mean sameness. So it is preserved, but it doesn't remain the same. It works quietly. It works invisibly. But it is transformative. So, Cheryl Doss, I don't know if you know Cheryl Doss, but she's one of Seventh-day Adventist's greatest advocate for missions. And this is what she said. Mission is not just about bold proclamations. Often it's about the quiet, faithful witness that influences from the inside out. So whether we are at work in our communities or even in cultures vastly different from our own, really we need to remain distinctive. We can preserve what is, something is blocking me here, and act as moral compass from around us. So basically what we're saying is, salt is that quiet influence. It is not something that is loud and bold and outside there. But when salt passes through, we understand that it did. So Cheryl Doss perhaps would have been reading Sister White, and she says, now I'm Seventh-day Adventist. Sorry for those who are not. And those who don't believe in Sister White, I'm even more sorry for you. But this is what she would have said. And I suppose, as I said, Cheryl Doss was supporting what she said. So the silent witness of a true, unselfish, godly life carries an influence that is almost irresistible. In other words, if you want people to like you, just behave yourself. Be godly and be of some amount of transformative influence in people's life. You would find that people will appreciate you. So, while salt is all of that, salt can lose its saltiness. And we have been warned of that. Salt can lose its saltiness. We must be mindful that if we become too much like what we are trying to transform, then we will be unable to do any transformation. Yeah? We must be mindful that the church, that is us, must remain distinct, or we risk losing our impact. And we are talking about, of course, the salt and light. If we blend into the point of assimilation, we cease to be the preserving, transformative agents that we're supposed to be. Question is therefore, is engaging in the world but maintaining our commitment to the principles of kingdom a realistic expectation? Can it be done? Can it be done? Well, I got the statistics quite recently, and I thought I would share it. Like Speaker One, preparations never finish, and even after you are finished, you recognize that you didn't finish. So I've discovered that the Seventh-day Adventist Church is in more communities worldwide. It is in 4 times the amount of communities that McDonald's is around the world. So for every community that McDonald's is located, there are 4 other Seventh-day Adventist locations. And even if we add all the McDonald's, all the Subways, and all the 7-Elevens, if we combine them, there are still more Seventh-day Adventist presence around the world than all of those combined. And I ask the question, why are they better known than us? The questions are there. Maybe our sales representatives are not working. Maybe our sales strategy is poor. Maybe our product is misrepresented. Because there are few places you can go and people don't know a McDonald's or a Subway or a 7-Eleven, they will know. We just need to be more than salt. We need to be light. More than salt, we need to be light. We need to get out there, people. And getting out there doesn't mean making that bold proclamation, as Cheryl just said. Matthew 5:14 is that reference point in the scripture. It says that now light is inherently visible. Inherently visible. You cannot be in the presence of light and not see it. It shines. It dispels darkness, of course. It offers guidance. Light brings clarity. And I'm saying in a world of spiritual darkness, in a world of confusion, in a world of brokenness, in a world of despair, we, the light, ought to be presenting some kind of hope. We need to be presenting hope. How we do that is by the use of light, using what is available. And there we see the Roman roads. What does Roman roads have to do with salt and light? Well, I'm saying Romans, after taking over, of course, from Greece and ruling the world, roads became the major form of communication. And you will know, wherever roads are built, people go. That's why the new highway going down Point Fortin, people complaining, because they now took the roadway away from the main road and carried somewhere else. So people are complaining, all the shopkeepers are complaining, because the people are no longer passing there. And you would recognize that very soon, business places will go up along the new highway. Just as we had swampy areas on the both sides of the highway going down San Fernando, now you're going to Shogunas, all you're seeing is business places going down there. Because you build roads, people go. Roads, those of you who do economics know that roads is a form of communication. And the Roman roads were the communication that was cutting edge at the time. But what we do as a church It's because we did not build the roads, we refuse to use it. We didn't make the road, so it have to be devilish. And if the road is devilish, let's not use it. But I want to say to us this afternoon, if we are going to be not just salt but also light, we better use the Roman roads. It is what the disciples walked on to carry the gospel to all the uttermost places of the earth. The Romans road. Jesus didn't build one road, but they walked on the Romans road to carry the gospel. Let us not be so insidious to figure that everything that God is going to use to carry this gospel must come from inside the Seventh-day Adventist church. God will allow those that have the gifts but would not praise Him to create what we must use to do it. And so the cutting-edge technology that exists today, I suspect we will have to account to God when He comes if we don't use what He has provided. Use the Roman roads, whatever that is today. The Seventh-day Adventist Church, in its early inception, used cutting-edge technology. The printing press was cutting-edge technology when the church first started. And they printed and they printed. And when they were tired printed, they started printing again. And sent the printed pages all over the world. And that served as the entering wedge for when the missionaries were sent out. Let's use the cutting-edge technology that exists if we want to be salt and we want to be light, as we were called to be. Well, light also exposes, though. So while light will bring clarity and dispel darkness, it also exposes. It exposes, and as a consequence of that, we must be prepared to be unpopular. And when I say unpopular, I don't mean unknown. Unpopular means that people will disagree with what you are positing. People will disagree with your stand. People will agitate against what you are proposing. You may be unpopular, but if you are light and salt, you will be known. People will hear your voice. People will know what your position is. They may not agree, but they will know. So unpopular means that they will strongly disagree and agitate against you at times. But it's something that we must be prepared for because we are salt and light. That might make us a little uncomfortable. I want to say to us that comfort in this world is not something we should really be pursuing. Once we get comfortable here, something might be wrong with that. This place is not a place for God-fearing people to be comfortable in. We learn to live. We learn to adapt. We do what we have to do. But if you get comfortable, something wrong with that. This is a sin-sick place. And if we get comfortable in sin-sick places, something goes wrong. Nobody, regardless of how good a doctor or a nurse you are, want to live in a hospital. You care for people, you go there and do what you have to do, but you look forward to going home because you don't want to spend all your days in no hospital. We do what we have to do. We nurse who we have to nurse. We care for who we have to care for. We share what we have to share. But don't get comfortable. Can't afford to. Question, therefore, to all of us. How do we balance these dual identities, blending in while standing out? Being salt while being light. Boldness and humility. What did I say? Boldness and humility. We blend in by being humble, by being approachable, and willing to learn from others. 1 Corinthians 9:22, Paul gives us perhaps the template for that. He says what? I have become all things to all people, that by all means I may save some. Blending in while standing out. There's a certain level of humility that must come with blending in. Of course, this doesn't mean that we give up our values, but it certainly means that we contextualize how we speak. So this is where I digress slightly with speaker number one. Because from all I have gathered, the church really has no mission. Bringing people to Christ is not our mission. The church's mission is not. Bringing people to Christ is God's mission. From the very beginning, when man sinned, it is God that has been pursuing the lost. It is God that has been putting things in place so that people can be reconciled with Him. And I'm saying today that the privilege of the church is to be participants in God's mission. And maybe sometimes we conduct ourselves in such a way because we think it is our mission. So I'm saying to us today, anything that we do as a church, and any time we do it, and any place we do it, that is different from how Christ would have done it, it's either an error or it's a usurping of God's authority. Because it is not our mission. You think you can go into courts and call on a sale because you're the branch manager? If the people then tell you to put up a sale sign and you go and put up sale sign in the people place because you're the branch manager, you'll be looking for a work. Not because you're managing somebody's store means it's your store. If God gave us the privilege of being part of His mission, it doesn't become ours. And therefore, our engagement in God's mission must be based on God's conditions. Sometimes we can be more interested in and protective of the church than God's character. And because we think it's our mission, oh boy. We think this is our thing. And I'm saying we must ensure that whatever we do, wherever we do it, however we do it, whenever we do it, must be representation of God's character, because it is His mission. Maybe Mahatma Gandhi came across some of us. And that's why he said in the interview that he had with this press, he says, I like your Christ. I do not like your Christians. Your Christians are so unlike your Christ. Now, he said this because he studied at a Christian university. And one of the courses that he did was New Testament. So from the Bible, he got a good sense of what Christ was like. And he became very attracted to the Beatitudes. But what he found was what Christ proposed and what Christ lived was different from what he experiencing from the persons that proposed to be the followers of Christ. And so he said, I like your Christ. I do not like your Christians. Your Christians are so unlike your Christ. I can't say that about you. I'm simply saying, you just consider whether when people line you up with Christ, what do they see? So how do we become salt and light? Well, sound like a cliche maybe. Think, what will Jesus do? What was Jesus' disposition to people in darkness? How did he interact with those who were not of his truth and conviction? How did he treat the people whom he knew were lost? What is Jesus' modus operandi towards sinners? What would Jesus do? And if what we do and how we treat in these circumstances is not lining up with what Jesus did, then maybe we have usurped Christ's authority and we are taking the mission away from him and we're trying to own it. How you treat with these circumstances is to be done the way Christ treated with these circumstances. Other than that, it's an error or it's a usurping of authority. So we have some necessary salt and light qualities. That's us. Availability. If we want to be light and we want to be salt, we must be available to people. You cannot be too busy for people, but you want to be salt and light. You're always busy. You have assignment to do. You have work to do. You have your wife to go and check, your husband to go and check, your children to go and pick up. You always have something to do. No time for people. You cannot be salt and light if you're too busy for people. Be available. Of course, family is important. Of course, your job is important. Of course, Bible study and school is important. But you must have time for people. You're bound to have to. Well, that's if you're interested in being salt and light. That's if you're interested in being a participant in Christ's mission. You must be authentic. You don't have to be perfect, but you have to be authentic. And authenticity means that you are prepared to learn. So you can't walk about the place and say, well, I'm being authentic now. I just get vexed fast, so you better don't tell me nothing. Well, yes, admit that you get vexed fast, so you have a short temper. That is being authentic, but be prepared to work on that. The reason why Christ had to die is because we are who we are. We were born in sin and shaped in iniquity. As speaker number 1 said, we are filthy rags. So we can't walk about the place feeling comfortable about who we are, because who we are is short of who we should be. So work on that. Be authentic, but be prepared to work on yourself through the Holy Spirit. Identity. Know who you are and know where you are going. And a successful life really is based on the measure and rod that has been set up by God. Nobody else. And that measuring rod had been set up from very early. Genesis 1:20, it said, let us make man in our own image. That is, when people see you, they must have a good idea of who God is. Know that identity. Destiny ties into our identity. And synergy. We need to work with each other. We need to work with people and human beings. Yeah, we were made social beings. And connectivity, that doesn't mean or Wi-Fi. Connectivity is just not being lethargic. You know, to have some people, they like come to dead. Their whole life is lethargic and slow. Connectivity simply means that get involved, get some energy, live, yes, live. Some connectivity. So, you do all of that, of course, with some level of contextualization. Light shines most effectively when it is contextualized. And we have an example of that here today. We cannot expect others to understand or appreciate our message if we don't first understand their context. What is this person really seeing and feeling and sensing? And if we don't understand that, then we don't know what hue of light to shine on them. Just as light takes on different hues in different settings, we must adapt our approach while staying true to the core message of the gospel. So they're streaming here today, and they throw this kind of light. But if they're not streaming, of course, they take those lights off and they put the ones on the in-house. And they set some on the stage. They don't put this light on the stage. They put some nice colored ones in the back there. Because contextualization is important. The amount of light and the kind of light that you throw on a situation or in a circumstance must be contextualized to who and where you are lighting. That's what Paul says when he said, I become all things to all men. So the challenge is this. Influence your world quietly and powerfully, but also shine brightly, reflecting the love and truth of Jesus Christ. As Seventh-day Adventist, you are uniquely positioned to engage with the world, blending by understanding and adapting to your surroundings, yet stand out by staying true to your prophetic calling. Live as salt and as light. Bring salt and light. Being salt or light is neither passive nor is it neutral. Being salt and light is active and intentional. May we be forever both salt and light. I thank you.